Welcome to All About Money on HKIBC. I'm Chloe Feng. Hong Kong's tourist numbers are surging. Over 1.1 million mainlanders arrived last month, up sharply from the roughly 280,000 in January. With the border fully reopened, most sectors reported stronger demand, from personal banking to retail and from catering to real estate. As we hear more Putonghua spoken on the streets, would we see a faster than expected post-COVID recovery this year? Joining us to share his insights on the tourism revival is Mr. Allan Zeman, the chairman of Lan Kwai Fong Group. So, Dr. Zeman, thank you for taking the interview with us.
Chloe, it's a pleasure to be here.
And actually, it is roughly 1 year since we lastly met on our program. So last year, we also had you on the show, but it was via Zoom because of the COVID situation.
Exactly.
Just 1 year, how things have changed. How would you comment on the current tourism recovery in, for example, the city's iconic Lan Kwai Fong district?
Well, I can tell you, just not only Lan Kwai Fong, but just in general, that once we got rid of the masks, everything changed. There was a feel-good factor. People were already starting to go out. I mean, Lan Kwai Fong was actually doing better than most media had reported, because I can tell you from December, January, February, and now part of March, we had record numbers every night, every day. The numbers better than pre-COVID days.
Is it like exponentially growing?
Exponentially growing, but better than pre-COVID days. And really, it was very surprising. A lot of locals, a lot of mainlanders, once the border opened, everything changed. And some Taiwanese, some people from Southeast Asia. So generally, we're back. And I can honestly say, I can honestly feel it in the street, talking to customers, talking to overseas. The biggest problem we have is overseas. The message is still, oh, Hong Kong is closed and having problems, and China's no good. And, you know, because we're in the middle of a Cold War between the West, the US, and China. Hong Kong is collateral damage. So, of course, they try to give Hong Kong a bad name. But, you know, the government has launched Hello Hong Kong campaign, the Happy Hong Kong campaign, and part of the Hello Hong Kong campaign. And you know, the most important thing, the thing that really made a lot of difference in the world is the 800,000 free airline tickets that is being offered by Hong Kong. No other country, city in the world has ever done something like this. And this made a lot of people around the world take notice. I did an interview about 3 weeks ago with French TV, the national television station for all France that they watch. It's called 7 à 8, an hour before the news that everybody in France watches. And they were sent out here, the reporters were sent out here really to see what's the real story of Hong Kong, because they hear so many stories and all that. And I did a 2-hour interview, of course, telling them the real story. And then we took them to Lan Kwai Fong. It was a Friday night. And it was mobbed. There were so many people in the street. Of course, people were wearing masks, because at that time the mask mandate was still on. But they couldn't believe it. And then the reporter, she was a female, she said to me, you know, the free airline tickets that was just announced, because it was just announced, she said, how do I get one? I want to bring my 8-year-old daughter back to Hong Kong. And she showed me her mobile phone. And every newspaper in France, the headline, Hong Kong to offer at that time, 500,000 free tickets, you know. And that made a big, big difference. It was really a brilliant, I sat on the airport authority for 7 years. So it was just part of something that the airport authority did in order to help some of the airlines like Cathay and Hong Kong Express that were really having problems during the COVID. And they just thought it's a good thing, but it just turned out to be a real game changer, because it really made the world understand we are open for business. One of the taglines in the Hello Hong Kong tagline is seeing is believing. I thought that's really important. The most important thing is more people that we can get over here to see, instead of listening to the media don't tell anybody about some of the reporting from media, I mean, worldwide, because it's political. And so they don't really tell the real story or they don't know the real story. But when you come here and you see the vibrancy of Hong Kong and how Hong Kong is really alive, I mean, the good thing is with this government, things are really moving now. We've got 130 from now till the end of December, we have 130 different attractions, which we just finished the Clock and Flat this past weekend,
Right.
which was amazing, sold out. They haven't done it for 3 years, because of COVID, and it was never sold out, but it was sold out, and everyone I talked to had a great time. Hong Kong has really changed quickly, and I say it's Hong Kong on steroids now. We're really, there's no turning back now. The last 4 years really has been very difficult for business. As I say, now that the masks finally, government was listening and the masks finally got removed, we were the last ones in the world actually to have it, yeah. But people don't even think about it anymore, they don't think about COVID anymore. It's, and the economy is actually getting better.
It's also like after the drop of the mask mandate, when you go on the streets, you really feel a sense of like liberty, and you see the whole social atmosphere seemingly changed. And I suppose that's also one of the reasons why Financial Secretary Paul Chan launched this campaign of Happy Hong Kong. Speaking of the interpretation of these two campaigns, for me, I would interpret it as like the Hello Hong Kong, more targeting for the overseas visitors, whereas Happy Hong Kong more targeting on the local residents. But actually, in terms of the attraction for overseas visitors, even though we tried very hard to rebrand the city, to showcase the city, but then some voices are still popping up with criticism saying that it seems that, from the campaign promotional videos, it doesn't seem very attractive or innovative. How would you respond to those voices?
My response is, don't listen to the naysayers. There's always people that will always find fault with everything. And I can tell you, even the Hello Hong Kong, yes, I was not a fan of that slogan, but it doesn't matter because it just shows Hong Kong is open. You like it, you don't like it, whatever. I myself, Hong Kong Tourism Bureau, HKTB, asked me to do a short video clip of inviting people to come back to Hong Kong, which I put out. It's been on Netflix, it's been on everywhere, and Twitter, Facebook, everything. And I did it. I can't tell you how many new LinkedIn friends that people asking me they want me to accept them. It's just, so it really has made a difference. People do listen. Yes, some people will still go on and still think that Hong Kong is terrible and not bad. I get calls all the time from overseas friends in LA and other places in the US, and they really think, wow, what's going on? I tell them, please don't listen to the media. Come and see for yourself, and it'll continue to grow. We can see the important thing is, of course, the airport. I mean, if we can get more flights to Hong Kong,
also the capacity.
That is the biggest problem at the moment. Because when we're closed for 3 years, 4 years, a lot of airlines cancel their flights to Hong Kong because there's no passengers at the time, and that is really important. Cathay doesn't think they'll be up to normal until 2024, which again, we need, without airline space, you can't bring enough international passengers out here. Also, the fares are quite high because of the smaller, loading. And so these are things that really we just have to live with and find ways to mitigate it.
While the numbers are picking up, does that really also being inflected in the business revenues from, for example, your business?
Oh, sure. As I'm saying, our business has been very, very good, in general. But even talking to retailers and seeing it's a lot better. Remember, there was no customers for 3 years. They didn't see customers. They had a hard time surviving. Many didn't survive. So it's a totally different ball game now. People are definitely, there's more people coming and more And I've seen other reports, that many mainlanders are giving Hong Kong a miss, and they're going to go to Hainan, to Sanya and other places. It's fine. There's 1.4 billion. The good thing is there's 1.4 billion mainlanders across the border. Even if we get 0.000%, 1%, it's a lot. It's a lot of tourists. So I never worry about our tourism business because that, I'm sure, will continue. I just had lunch with one of the CEOs of one of the famous publications, English publications in Hong Kong. And she said they're getting so many applications from expats who left Hong Kong who are now wanting to come back, to move back to Hong Kong.
So there's returns.
Returning. I've seen so many people from Singapore. People were saying, Singapore is killing Hong Kong. They're taking. So many companies are now moving back to Hong Kong. So many people in Singapore. It's not the same. And Singapore is a nice place, a good market. They look after the ASEAN market. The strength of Hong Kong is China. What we can't forget and what the world doesn't understand is the China market.
Well, we will take a short break for now, but coming up next, we'll talk more about, your business, also the integration with the mainland as well, also the mainland market. So do stay tuned. Welcome back to All About Money on HKIBC. I'm Feng. Still with us today is Dr. Allan Zeman, who is also known as the father of Lan Kwai Fong. So welcome to the show, Dr. Zeman. I know that you earlier just talked about, the Greater Bay Area, how it is important to Hong Kong. And I know that recently you also have some new moves. You have struck the new deals with the HKIBC Group, which is also a developer on the mainland.
Yes.
I'm thinking, what does it mean for Lan Kwai Fong Group? I mean, you are expanding your business to the mainland, but would it be still under the name or the brand of Lan Kwai Fong, or there will be a new name?
Well, Chloe, I've actually been in China. Not many people might realize this, for 45 years. I was probably been there way before most of the Hong Kong people. I had my first office in Hunan, in Changsha, Hunan. And honestly, I've seen the changes, and true in 45 years ago, that was, for those people who didn't know China, that was true communism. That was China was quite backward at the time and had a very closed system. I went through that. I admired it, but I saw the changes that took place in China.
You do feel that
I saw all the changes, China opening up more and more and more with the different administrations in China. It got stronger and stronger. And I really became a believer in the Chinese system. I really, more so even when people still doubt the Chinese system.
Even now.
I believe very, very strongly in the Chinese system because I saw the changes. In 2008, I changed my passport for a Chinese passport because I really do believe China's the second largest economy in the world. I believe they'll be number one in the next 5 to 8 years. I mean, that quick, because they're just going at full steam ahead. Even though the West is trying to stop them with sanctions and all that, I bet on China. At the end of the day, they'll come out of it. And 15 years ago, we went to Chengdu because the government, the party secretary,
15 years ago.
Yeah, came to Hong Kong and wanted a Lan Kwai Fong in Chengdu. And so I went there, and I loved the city. The city in Chengdu was
very slow pace.
Very slow pace, but the people party every night. I don't know, they don't work. They just go out every night till 3, 4, 5 in the morning. I don't know when they go to work.
It's a nightclub.
But at a very nightclub, and they're a cultural city. Great city. So we opened up a Lan Kwai Fong at the time in Chengdu, and it's been still going very strong 15 years later. That was actually already built, not as Lan Kwai Fong, but it was supposed to be a retail area. It wasn't really to my liking, but we did the best we could with it, and it survived 15 years. With the Greater Bay Area coming now, I'm supposed to be this visionary that sees into the future. I really believe very strongly in that area. And so I was a developer, who owns Mr. Chu, that owns Haya Group in Shenzhen. It was a developer. They owned the Haya Super Mall in Shenzhen, and been about 10 years there. And they've got other developments. They have a lot of land available, and they also believe very strongly in the Greater Bay Area. And so he came to me one day and asked, would I come to Shenzhen? And he has a project in Zhongshan, which he thinks will be very, very good. And he'd love to have a Lan Kwai Fong there. And not just that, also we can build out, as the Greater Bay Area gets going, we can build out more of them into the Greater Bay Area. So I said, let me go and see. And so we went to Shenzhen about a number of weeks ago, and Zhongshan, and it really, I really saw the vision of what they wanted to do, what they could do. Wow, Zhongshan, at the moment to get to Zhongshan from Shenzhen takes about an hour and 40 minutes. You got to go around through the back way and come back. But there's a new bridge that's being built that'll be finished at the end of this year.
All right, yeah.
And that'll be from Shenzhen to Zhongshan will be only 15 minutes, 1-5. Shenzhen is such a great city. It's got such a young population, and I really think it'll be very good. So we did a deal together. In the meantime, as soon as China announced they're opening up, for some reason, we've gotten so many visits from government officials about wanting a Lan Kwai Fong. Suddenly, everybody wants it. Lohu district in Shenzhen, the Qinghai, the government officials came. Everybody's asking. Shanghai, Hangzhou district, they all came here, and they all are dying. And I said, I'll go. And Sanya, Hainan is another area that will become supposedly the second Hong Kong, with all duty-free and tax-free area. And so the mayor of Sanya was here in my office with 10 people, and I promised him I'll come and look at it. Again, we can only do so much, but I really do feel they really want it. And, when you're in China, no one even talks about COVID. It's like 3 years happened, and it's all back to normal. Everything's booming.
But the opening was really swift, also came in sudden as well.
Yeah.
And speaking of the expansion, on the mainland, then would that also include the Hong Kong features?
Of course.
In Lan Kwai Fong?
Of course. Hong Kong features, the real Lan Kwai Fong. If we can build, like in Shanghai, in Shenzhen, if we can build what we have in Hong Kong, of course, it'll have all the features plus, because we can, in Hong Kong, most of the buildings were already built, and I have to kind of fit into what we have. But when you're starting from a blank piece of paper, I can build what I want and really make it very, very unique. I'm sure it'll be amazing.
And how would you comment on the timing now? Because, yes, China is opening and it is recovering, but then the consumption remains a concern. That is also what the authority wants to tackle this year. But also at the same time, we have the very high interest rates. What would you say about the investment outlook this year?
China just opened up, a little while ago, and of course, for 3 years, they were basically closed, and it was very, very bad. They're predicting a 5% GDP going forward. We think it'll be very conservative. I think they don't want to say too high. I think that it'll be more like 6 or 7%, basically, because now it gets going. China moves very, very quickly. As we saw with the way they opened. Actually, from these 2 meetings that it was just finishing now, they've taken some very, very good steps, especially with the new regulatory commission that's set up to regulate banks and look at banks so that they can't get into trouble. All the problems that they had before, they've kind of addressed now. And so I really do believe you'll see a much, much stronger economy. And so I don't worry about that.
this is going to be a new chapter. But then,
Exactly.
from like during COVID,
Yeah.
we've seen so many foreign investments, like investors, they're
Yeah.
pulling out of their investment from China because of some concerns. Also,
sure.
regarding the policy uncertainty, let's say in this way, because for example, we had the tech crackdown, the tutoring crackdown. So many people just suddenly lost job overnight. So would you worry? Would that concern you
Chloe,
at a certain level?
I've been here long enough, I've seen it many times. When it happened, many of the funds overseas and whatever, oh, China is uninvestable. You know, the common denominator was China's uninvestable. What's happened, if you talk to a lot of the funds now worldwide, because they really see the growth of China, and China's really gotten back again, suddenly you've got a lot of money from overseas flowing back into China.
You mean after the reopening?
Yeah, after the reopening. So suddenly, it suddenly becomes investable, you know. And sure, you still have, because of politics in the U.S., some of the funds really can't invest in China because of sanctions and all the other stuff that we'll have to live with. But what the U.S. doesn't understand, all with these sanctions for chips and semiconductors, and they think they'll slow down the growth of China. Yes, it hurts for a short while, but I do believe China will then become self-sufficient, because right now they're going to, and getting new people, new entrepreneurs starting up chip factories, semiconductor factories, and really China moves at record pace normally. And when that happens, they've got enough money, and I've seen it happen where they will again become self-sufficient at that time, and they won't need, really, if the U.S. doesn't want to place orders out in China or wants to try to stop China, they can't. It's unstoppable, I can tell you. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about all the politics. That'll pass. You'll get a new president in, and who knows, it might be worse, it might be better. You have the war in Russia and Ukraine and all the other comments that come up. But I can tell you, hopefully interest rates will come down at some point, because they're trying to stave off inflation. But U.S. is the one that created the inflation, basically, you know, because they kept printing money during the COVID.
Too much.
And yeah, there's so much, and too much in the U.S. economy, so they got to take it off. But the rest of the world is now suffering because of it. So there's many things that need to be fixed, you know, in the world economy right now. So I don't worry so much about China, because China is self-sufficient, and really the exports, the world needs the exports from China, and China doesn't have to depend on exports now. They're trying to wean off of that, because they've got 600 million middle class. You know, it's double the size of the United States. You know, and so, you know, in the long run, don't bet against China or Hong Kong. That much I can tell you. I've been here 50 years, and I always know at the end. I say this many times. I've been at this movie many, many times. The ending is always the same. It's always good.
Very firm stance. And also, what are the other areas that interest you now? For example, in terms of the investment, other than the property sector, what else would you be interested, or are you investing now? For example, you mentioned about, for example, semiconductors. Would that be of your interest?
No, that's not really our expertise. I mean, I'd love to. I would love to. It depends. I mean, things come along all the time now. Of course, AI is becoming the big thing of the future, you know.
And also the city is also pushing
GPT, you know, ChatGPT, all these new things. The world, the technology world, is going to change very rapidly with all these new inventions, all these new technology things. And so we're always looking at, you know, we're business people. We always look at the right product, something that we think we can do well with. The problem is tech changes really, really quickly. And so you really need a boatload of money, you know, to keep feeding tech. And you have this, and suddenly there's a new thing coming, you know, and so I prefer. It'll never be my main business. But I mean, we've got. My son is very interested in it, and of course, but we use tech to improve the efficiency of the company, because tech makes you better, makes you much more efficient.
Tech transformed our life over the past
Whole
years
life,
as well.
everyone.
All right, thank you very much for taking the time and for being on our show today, Dr. Zeman. And thank you for watching All About Money. We'll be back next Sunday night. So until the next time, please have a good night.